Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. It's May 1st, 2020, in the year of the pandemic. I'd like to say a few words about where we stand in the diocese here. I've been wanting to do this for some time. The priest suggested that I should write a letter to everybody, and I was going to do that, and then I thought, well, why don't I just, I'm in front of the camera all the time with these broadcast masses, so I might as well just talk to you straight out. There's many things to say, but I'd like to just focus on a couple right now. I emphasized May 1st because I just listened to Governor Brown's press conference this morning, and there's a date not too far from now that's significant, May 15th. And that's the date that the governor said the counties with less COVID patients and very few deaths or no infections would be allowed to open up more fully. And that means counties in our diocese, I think. And so I think it's quite important to if all of us to fix our minds on that May 15th date. Now, just to step back from that for a second, what we've been thinking about doing, first of all, I should say that I hope you know, this has not been anything that I've been happy to be the administrator of. To shut down the churches from Mass. I didn't become a priest to close the doors of the church to Mass. I became a priest to bring people to communion, not to keep them from communion. So this goes against everything that all of us priests that's our DNA. It goes against all of that. And yet we live in a very strange time, very dangerous time at the first of this thing. And now it's time, as we can see across the country, to move back to normal or towards normal. At least that's my hope. And so what we've been doing, first of all, I want to say that I've been so encouraged with the priests of the Diocese of Baker, and we've been meeting on telephone conference calls, all of them in different deaneries, for the last couple of weeks. So I've talked with all the priests in the diocese a couple of times. And we found out what's going on in each of the parishes, what their experience has been, and what the hopes are and what the possibilities are. So some weeks ago, I asked the priests to prepare detailed plans for how we could open up again with limited numbers of parishioners, how we could best bring as many people as possible to Mass and to communion. And that's what they've done. They presented those plans, and now I've just sent back to them kind of an organizing scheme for how we can proceed. I won't go into the details of that right now because some of them are still in flux, need to be adjusted. But let me just say this, that the general thing would be that the dispensation from Sunday Mass will continue. Will continue until we have things more ordered, so that you will not be obliged to attend Sunday Mass. You're not obliged now because you can't. But even on those instances when you could, you're not obliged to attend Mass on Sunday. What I hope to do is to get as many people to Mass and communion as possible within a period of time, to get people back to church, back to Mass. And that means that we have, however, this 25-person limit that we're currently having to operate under in Oregon, 25 people at a time. Incidentally, those of you on the border with Idaho and Ontario, Baker, Nissa, you may wonder what the problem is, because right across the border in Idaho, they have no limits of numbers of the church attendance anymore. They're reopened. They have social distancing. They have to keep their space in the pews and all this, and they're doing a wonderful job from what I can see. But we are bound by this 25-person limit, at least right now. And so this is an attempt to, as the priest will, I hope, will be unveiling this soon, that the priest will be informing you and inviting you to take part in going back to Mass in deliberate ordered groups, in groups that are no longer larger than 25. That means we'll have to have more Masses, smaller Masses, and we'll spread them out over a week or over 2 weeks. The point is that you can get back to Mass. Not in the regular routine that you're accustomed to yet, but at least to participate in Mass and communion. That's the goal. That's the goal, to do that as soon as we can. And there's going to be all kinds of glitches, no doubt, that come up. And what is called for is a great deal of patience on everybody's part. I hope that you'll be patient with things that when they don't go as smooth as we like it. And I hope that you'll be helpful and contribute to making things better. That's essential. We have to be patient with one another to make this work. Now, that 25-person limit is a very important number to keep in mind. That's set down not just for churches, but for all kinds of other groups, gatherings of 25 people or more, no more than 25 people. That specifically says that if you're going to have worship services, you cannot have more than 25 at a time. Well, that was all done with when things were looked very, very grave, and we can understand the reason for being very, very cautious. Who wants to be dangerous in a situation like this? But now, as we look to trying to live more normally, we want to call in question that number 25, because that's a very difficult number for us to work with. If that number were raised just to 50 people at a time, it would make an enormous difference, make it much, much more easy to accommodate people at Mass, to say nothing of 100 people at a time. So we're citizens of this state. We all have a mind, and we can think about how to solve our problems. We know what life is like in our parishes, and we also know, we appreciate, at least I've been learning what it's like to live these social distancing norms when I go to the grocery store. Everybody's getting accustomed to staying this distance away. We can arrange these kind of things in an orderly way in our churches. There's no question about that. So what we need is to have access to the government to present our point of view. The question that has occurred to me is, whoever makes the decision about the number of people that are allowed in churches, what's their experience? What do they know about a Catholic church? What do they know about a Baptist church over here? What do they know about the Latter-day Saints? What are they taking into consideration? We know more than they do about our churches, and we know more than they do about how we can arrange them. And we can, that's what I would like us to have a chance to put forth, with a view to expanding this number over this very, very restrictive 25 as soon as we can. I mention that because, as many of you know, I wrote a letter to all of the county commissioners in the counties in our diocese, in the Diocese of Baker, and then I wrote the same letter, sent the same letter to all the state senators in the Diocese of Baker, and to Representative Zika here in Redmond, and I've gotten very, very encouraging responses from them. They're very, very receptive to precisely what I've said, that we try to find a way to get this number raised up, maintaining these precautions. And so I draw your attention to that now, that the fact that the county commissions are now wrestling with this thing. They've written back that they are in fact considering these matters, all the matters they have to do with this, but ours among them, the religious service limit. And now I think is the time to contact the county commissioners and let them know how you think. Let them know how you think, so that they can in turn forward this up the chain of command. The governor was going to meet with this afternoon, I believe, with the number of the county commissioners and hospital administrators of Eastern Oregon. So now is the time to make our voices heard, I would say, and simply try to get a little bit more room to breathe, that we can be freer fundamentally in coming to worship our God in this time, in this month of May. It's just turned into the month of May, and we've just reconsecrated the diocese in the United States to Mary, Mother of the Church. Pope Francis has suggested that every family in this month of May, in such a strange time, a threatening time, that every family pray the rosary together as a family every day of May. I think this would be just a wonderful, wonderful practice for us to adopt. And so I would ask you to please consider that, and please consider how you might make your voice heard to our representatives, so that we can expand our freedom of worship here in Oregon. There's many other things I'd like to mention, but I want this to get out and not wait for further delay. So I'll just sign off right now and say that I said I was very pleased to hear from the priests. I've also been very, very pleased to hear from many of you who have written about your experience of these days. And the Lord works in strange ways. There is no way to block the entrance of His grace into our hearts. And so keep them open to the surprise that He may have in store. God bless you all.